After a horrible summer league showing in which he looked like he was on his way out of the league, Ochai Agbaji is currently playing the best basketball of his NBA career, and he looks like a potential elite 3-and-D player. He's also making a pretty solid case to be in Toronto's starting lineup for the rest of the season. Here's what's leading to Agbaji's massive leap as a player and why the Raptors should keep starting him. After spending 4 years at Kansas, Agbaji was drafted by the Cavs with the 14th pick in 2022. But before even suiting up for Cleveland, Ochai was traded to the Jazz alongside Lauri Markkanen in exchange for Donovan Mitchell. In Utah, Agbaji shot the ball okay from deep. He connected on 35.5% of his threes in his first year, while taking about 4 a game. Before Ochai was traded to Toronto, he was shooting a significantly worse 33% on 2.9 threes a night, a decent fall off from his rookie season. However, after being traded to Toronto in the middle of his sophomore season, Agbaji just went ice cold from deep, shooting 21.7% from 3 across the last 26 games for Toronto. Toronto's coaching staff knew immediately that something was off with Agbaji's shot mechanics, which would explain the massive fluctuations from his last year in college, where he was shooting about 40% from the college line, to 35% rookie season, then 33%, then 21% last year. And after working on his jump shot all last season and this offseason, Agbaji has put in a ton of work into his three-point shot, and now he's added it as a legitimate part of his offensive arsenal. And he's been one of the best shooters in the league this season. Through the first 21 games, Agbaji is shooting a blistering 47% from deep on 4 attempts per game. And while I'm not a shot doctor, so I can't break down every tiny little change Agbaji and the coaching staff made to his jump shot, there are a few things that really stick out to me that I think have helped improve him as a jump shooter. First, his base and feet are now consistently spaced about a shoulder width apart every single time, with his toes both facing forward. Earlier in his career, his base would be spaced all over the place, sometimes closer than his shoulder width, sometimes even a little further than his shoulder width. His toes would sometimes be pointed more inward or outwards, and all of these inconsistencies just led to his jump shot being way more inconsistent. Secondly, earlier in his career, Ochai relied a lot on his legs to generate the power for his outside shots, which would also explain why he was a much better shooter in college compared to the first year and second year in the league. But relying on his legs and jumping to generate the power for his jump shot led to a bunch of inconsistencies, because you're not going to jump the same exact strength almost every single time, especially when you're relying on that jump and on that boost to get your shot to the 3-point line or get your shot to the net. This year, both of those hiccups are gone from his mechanics, which has helped push his crazy efficiency from deep. His base is pretty consistently now shoulder width apart, his toes both face the same direction, and he's not jumping too high on his jump shots, just getting enough lift to get the shot there instead of trying to overcompensate by jumping higher to make up for a lack of power in the arms. Secondly, Ochai's shot selection has improved dramatically, which has been a major factor in his improved efficiency. Ochai has always been a pretty great three-point shooter from the corners. In his rookie season, he shot 50% from the right corner and 39% from the left. However, over half of his threes that season came from above the break, where he shot just 27%. In year 2, a similar breakdown, high 30s from both of the corners, but below 30% from above the break. Yet, once again, over half of his threes came from the break. This year, he's finally pretty much only taking corner threes and kind of just taking those short wing threes when he can't get all the way set up in the corner. And with this increased focus on his corner three-point shooting, the increased volume, and his improved jump shot, Ochai has just been on fire from both of the corners and is one of the best corner three-point shooters in the league. Ochai shoots 59% from the left corner and 48% from the right corner. He's also doing this on about 4 threes per game, which is a career high in volume. He's also shooting a much better 34% on above the break threes, but he's taking less than half of his threes from there. Having someone who shoots 50% from the corners is just fantastic for team spacing and presents a great weapon on the court. In most help situations, the helper is coming from the corner as there's less space to cover compared to the top of the key. But with Ochai waiting there, it becomes a massive gamble for the defender. Do I give up an easy layup by not helping, or do I leave a 50% shooter in the corner wide open? With guys like Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley, who are just excellent slashers and passers out of those situations, that little bit of hesitation just does wonders for Toronto's offensive system and the rest of the players on the team. But Agbaji does more than just spot up in the corners. Because he's such a deadly weapon from out there, teams really have to respect him. So when they're closing out, they close out very aggressively, and Ochai has gone very good at hitting a little pump fake, then driving the baseline and making something happen around their rim. He can do that from both corners, really utilizing that pump fake to get going downhill with a head of steam, where he can make something happen using his bounce and his overall athleticism. However, just taking a leap as a shooter isn't enough to earn a starting spot for Ochai, but it's a good thing he's stepped up defensively as well. Ochai has always been projected to be a solid NBA defender, but this season he's really making great use of his physical tools and locking in on that end. At 6'5", Ochai is more of a small forward defender, being able to guard 1 through 3 pretty effectively, but with his 6'10" wingspan, great bounce, and strength, Ochai is able to guard up in positions, being able to make up for that size difference due to those physical tools. And we saw this when Scotty Barnes was out. Ochai was tasked with guarding the opposing team's best forwards. In most of these matchups, he's often given up 2 inches of height. Once against the Lakers, Ochai was able to hold LeBron James to 4 of 10 for shooting, as well as being able to force 2 turnovers out of him. Against the Celtics, he was able to hold Tatum to 4 of 10 shooting as well, and had a pretty amazing play against him where Tatum beat him off the dribble, but Ochai was able to recover and meet Tatum at the rim and rejected his shot. These guys are offensive talent with plus size on Ochai, but he's still able to hold his own because of his physical tools, because of his wingspan, and because of just how hard he works on that end. He does struggle kind of getting around screens. I think he's a little bit too upright at some points, which allow guys to get by him or lose him on those screens. But overall, I think he does an excellent job as a point of attack defender, especially on one-on-one man situations. But Ochai does more than just defend on the ball well. He's been using his physical tools to improve his off-ball defense pretty massively. Ochai this season has been great at playing the passing lanes and being a very disruptive, just defensive nuisance. He's averaging a career high in steals and deflections, which helps showcase this increase in activity. And once again, I've talked about his bounce, I've talked about the wingspan, and he's really using those 2 physical tools to become an elite help side rim protector slash secondary tertiary shot blocker. There's been a couple of plays where he's just come out of nowhere, like the Tatum one where he came out of nowhere and just erased that shot. There's been a few other ones where he's just been able to recover at the rim and just make a big play. I think he was able to block Jokic 1 or 2 times. He had a pretty nice recovery against AG, and this just really speaks to his activity on that end and how versatile he is. These guys have massive size and strength advantages over him, but because of what he can bring on that end with his bounce and his overall hard working, he's able to make up for those differences and still be an elite playmaker on that end. I do think there's more for him as a rim protector. I think he can work on his timing and stop fouling a little bit much, or I think he can work on his timing and cut down on his fouls, and with that he'll be a better rim protector, and he could easily average a block a game with that increased kind of focus. This has been a bit of a double-edged sword for the Raptors, but luckily and unluckily, the Raptors haven't really been fully healthy at any point this season, which means Coach Rajakovic hasn't had to make really tough choices about the starting 5 and who gets in there, which means Ochai has been able to start all but 2 games. However, even once everyone is healthy, I still think Ochai should be getting the start. He has upside, he's still young, he's only in his 3rd or 4th year in the league, and he's already taken a massive leap as an offensive player. He also helps balance out a lineup of Barrett, Barnes, and IQ as someone who isn't hunting his own shots and can really help on the defensive side of the ball.